Now, something that's not so exciting, Erica, is what's going on in the WNBA with the CBA. The deadline has passed. The WNPBA has entered a period of status quo after the previous CBA expired on Friday with no new deal or extension. Both sides signaled a desire to continue negotiations. But before we even go on further, because I don't think a lot of people understand what status quo is and what it means during the talks at this time.
I mean, it kind of fits to the definition of status quo, right? Business as usual. That's another phrase you can use for this status quo. Now, why are we differentiating status quo versus timeline or deadline, excuse me, for negotiation? Is just that in a status quo period, you're not aiming to or operating in good faith at a specific date. At any time, either side can opt to, if you're the Players Association, initiate a strike. And that's why that vote to empower the executive board to at the negotiation table, if and when they feel that they need to execute a work stoppage, that they can do so. So just because the players overall voted does not mean that they are going to execute a work stoppage or a strike, but they have the power. They have empowered the executive committee to do so. On the other side, there could be a lockout from the league, from the NBA, from sourcing that I've done in the last several months. The WNBA, the league offices continue, and people continue to say that the league does not intend to execute or initiate, I suppose is the better word, to initiate a lockout. So then what does that mean? Well, what it means right now is that we have two expansion teams, Alicia, who are in limbo. So status quo equals limbo for the expansion squads, but it also means that we are in the time period, we're in a season that does have an operating collective bargaining agreement. We'd start hearing teams and have teams report about qualifying offers to restricted free agents. We might start hearing about, off-season trades. And then, of course, free agency would be coming in February. That can't happen because there is no collective bargaining agreement. Because remember, the key here is that they opted out of the last CBA. So that CBA, once it expired, it's no longer governing the relationship between the WNBPA and the league office. So right now it is limbo. We've also heard reporting up to, the hours and minutes before we started recording that there's whether you want to call it in good faith or kind of a working agreement among the players, that they are not going to sign any of those qualifying offers.
So they might be there, but they're just not going to sign it. That's what they've all agreed on. Yes. Speaking of the players, Breanna Stewart told Sarah Spain on her podcast last week that both sides want to have things wrapped up by February 1st, which would be great. But she said they would both like to have it wrapped up by then. And specifically said, hopefully everything can be done by February 1st. Even if we agree, we still have to wait for the contracts to be written. So there's a lot to be thinking about. It's not just like, oh, you're done now, it'll work. If we can get it done by February 1st, we'll be in a good place.
Yeah. And then thus that implies that if they don't, then we are perhaps looking at anything from delays in the upcoming season to, again, either a lockout or a strike. Though from what we've been hearing, the strike initiated by the players is more likely than the lockout initiated by the league. And so, again, how expansion teams, again, are in limbo. Status quo equals limbo for these expansion teams because they're not really engaging fully in the league side as at the ownership table in these CBA negotiations, but they cannot move forward in filling their rosters until this is handled.
Yeah, and when you look at assembling an entire team, right, especially with the free agency the way that it is and the amount of players that are in that, you can only plan so much for things and only kind of like draw up kind of like wish lists and do everything for so long before you're literally just sitting there. I mean, they don't have teams yet. They don't really have a story to tell. They probably exhausted every kind of story point that they've had so far, because since they've announced that they're expansion teams, they've been doing this, right? And so now you just want players, you just want to execute, you want, the drafts and the expansion drafts and all of that. But unfortunately, they're I think, obviously the players are important, all of that goes without saying, but I feel really bad because they're really being hit hard going into an expansion season.
Yeah, and I just want to underline something that you said, with overwhelmingly the majority of players as free agents. Why does that impact these expansion teams? Well, because they can only, we saw this with the whole Seattle thing, right? And Golden State not taking anyone from Seattle. Per the last expansion draft, you can only take what was it? One player, right? I think, as I recall, because it was Monique Billings. That is an unrestricted free agent. So everybody's an unrestricted free agent. So you have, in theory, right, everyone available, but also, like, how are you building out a roster not knowing who is protected versus available in an expansion draft? We don't have any of that information right now.
Right. I mean, essentially, with all these free agents, the teams that are established don't even truly know what their teams are yet. So how do you protect anybody if they don't even have? So there's so many moving parts that have to be done, and they're already behind.
I'm telling you. And these expansion teams paid a pretty penny to enjoy being an expansion team. So what happens now? Do we forego an expansion draft? But then how do they get a roster? Do you halt their entry into the W? Because if I paid all that money, I would definitely have some words for whoever's in charge.
Yeah.
What do you mean we ain't starting? I mean, season tickets, contracts, leases, all of these things are already in place. So it's going to be wild.
The money is already flowing without the team even starting, period. And it will continue to flow and flow and flow, whether they have a team or not. And that is just a really hard place to be in.
It's like a government shutdown, but in the WNBA.
Yeah. Listen, and I ain't got the means to even be in that conversation, but I can't even imagine. And just seeing what the Valkyries did this year and how they executed so beautifully, it's like, how do you even do that when you have a start like this? Yeah, it's hard enough when it's all going the way you want it to.
I'm telling you, you better hope you got that front office team right, because they're gonna be having to move expeditiously.